A Texas policewoman grants a prisoner's last wish and what he asked for. In a harsh prison in the south of France, Claire Dubois, a young guard, lives a life dictated by rules until one day a convict, Etienne Moreau, entrusts her with a heartbreaking request. This is no ordinary request, but a challenge that shakes her beliefs, a promise made to a lost child, a secret buried deep. Claire must choose whether to obey or risk everything for the truth. This story of hope and courage would change her life forever. Claire Dubois, 26 years old, walks through the grey corridors of the Marseille prison. Her impeccable uniform reflects her discipline. Since childhood, in a small Provençal village, she dreamed of justice, inspired by her father, a respected gendarme. "Protect the weak, but never betray your honor," he would tell her. Graduating with honors, Claire joined the police force in Aix-en-Provence. There, she handled conflicts, diffused crises, always with integrity. Her colleagues admired her calm, but her uncompromising nature unsettled some. Her superior, Captain Lefebvre, a powerful man in his 50s, crossed the line. His advances, initially subtle, became more insistent. Claire refused politely but firmly. Stung, Lefebvre punished her by assigning her the worst tasks, constantly criticizing her. She held her ground. Then one evening, he summoned her. "Cooperate, or your career ends here," he threatened. Claire promised to report his abuse. 2 weeks later, a transfer order arrived to the high-security prison in Marseille, 3 hours away from Aix, disguised as a punishment. In this concrete universe, the air is thick and the sounds harsh. Claire supervises the inmates, maintaining order in a place where hope fades. She quickly learns to read silences, decode tensions, and command authority without provoking. The prisoners fall into predictable groups: the rebels, the broken ones, the manipulators. But one man stands out: Etienne Moreau, 33 years old, serving time for fraud. Polite, discreet, he helps others, writes their letters. During meals, Claire notices him absorbed in a book, far from the chaos. His eyes betray a deep pain. One evening, she sees him clutching a photo quickly hidden. A sudden intuition strikes her. Etienne carries a burden much greater than his sentence. Claire Dubois walks down the narrow hallway of the Marseille prison, her footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. Every day, she watches Etienne Moreau. He stands out from the other prisoners. No anger, no cunning. He helps a young inmate write a letter, corrects a word, smiles softly. Yet his eyes carry a sorrow that Claire cannot ignore. During a routine check, she finds him alone, staring at an old photo. He quickly hides it, but she catches a glimpse of a smiling little girl with curly hair. That gaze, that gesture, haunts her. One morning, during a cell check, Claire discovers an envelope hidden under Etienne's mattress. Inside, documents, newspaper clippings, letters, handwritten notes. She hesitates. The protocol demands that she confiscate and report it, but something holds her back. She confronts Etienne. He doesn't avert his gaze. "I'm innocent," he says, his voice calm but firm. "I was set up by my former company." He speaks of a promise made to his daughter, Camille, who died of leukemia at the age of 8. Claire's heart tightens. Etienne had wanted to prove his innocence, to return and take Camille to see the Mediterranean Sea, a dream she never got to fulfill. Camille passed away 6 months after his incarceration. He didn't get to say goodbye. Etienne explains he was an executive at a food company in Avignon, accused of fraud, convicted based on fabricated evidence. His wife, Elise, received threatening calls after the trial. Someone wanted to bury the truth. The company's lawyers crushed his public defender. Witnesses disappeared or changed their stories. Claire listens, torn between suspicion and compassion. What if he's lying? But her instincts, sharpened by years of reading people, tell her he's sincere. That night, Claire cannot sleep. Etienne's words keep echoing in her head. She replays the image of Camille, her smile. She thinks of her father, his lessons about honor. Following the rules has been her life, but ignoring this injustice would mean betraying everything she believes in. The next day, during her break, she heads to the municipal library in Marseille. She searches the online archives, reading articles about Etienne's trial. The inconsistencies are glaring. Investigations into the company quickly hushed up, witnesses retracted. Claire contacts a former colleague, Mark, a journalist who covers economic scandals. He confirms the company has a troubling history. Over the following weeks, Claire digs deeper in secret. She meets with former employees and uncovers falsified internal reports. Each piece of the puzzle strengthens her belief. Etienne is innocent, but acting on it is risky. Helping a convict could cost her her career, even her freedom. She imagines Captain Lefebvre waiting for her to make a mistake so he can break her. Yet the image of Camille, dreaming of the sea, pushes her to continue. She visits Etienne in his cell. "I'm going to help you," she whispers. His eyes light up, a mix of gratitude and hope. Claire coordinates with Mark. He collects testimonies and documents. A former colleague of Etienne, dying, admits he falsified evidence under pressure. The emails he provides are damning. Claire documents Etienne's exemplary behavior in prison, gathering statements from other inmates. She knows time is running out. A leak could alert the company. One Tuesday morning, Mark publishes the story. The evidence floods the media, newspapers, television, social media. The scandal erupts. The company executives are arrested. Etienne becomes a symbol of justice restored. But Claire feels the danger. The prison authorities are investigating the leak. They suspect inside help. She knows they'll trace it back to her. In the prison chapel, Etienne thanks her, tears in his eyes. Then he makes a new request. He wants to create a fund in Camille's name to help sick children whose parents are fighting injustices. Claire feels the weight of this choice. To accept is to abandon her old life. To refuse is to betray Camille, Etienne, and everything she believes is right. She looks at Etienne, his determined gaze. She knows what she has to do. Claire Dubois steps into the silent chapel of the Marseille prison. Etienne Moreau's words still echo in her mind. A fund for Camille to help sick children caught in injustice. She sees in his eyes a glimmer of hope, but also raw pain. She nods gently. "I'm with you." These words seal the decision. She knows this choice could change everything, not just for Etienne, but for herself. The next day, the announcement of Etienne's innocence makes the front pages. News channels broadcast footage of him leaving prison, free after 3 years. Claire watches from her small room in Aix-en-Provence, her phone constantly vibrating. Calls from prison management, from colleagues, from journalists. She ignores them all. The truth is out, but the price of her involvement hangs over her like a shadow. She knows the internal investigation is tightening. They will look for a scapegoat for the leak. Her name is at the top of the list. Etienne settles into a modest apartment in Nice, near the sea he never got to show Camille. He calls Claire one evening. His voice, freed from the prison's concrete walls, is lighter but still carries the weight of the past. "We need to start the fund," he says. Claire feels the urgency in his words. She thinks of her career, the stability she built, then of Camille, her smile in the photo. She cannot turn back. The next day, Claire writes her resignation letter. She hands it to the prison director, Mr. Dupont, a man of integrity who has always respected her. In his office, he reads the letter with a grave expression. "Claire, I know what you did for Moreau," he says. "The investigation has found traces of your research." She holds her breath, but he adds, "In 30 years, I've rarely seen someone act with such integrity." I can't officially approve, but I understand Claire leaves his office, a mix of relief and anxiety in her chest. She's giving up a salary, security, and a life she built, but she's walking towards something greater. A week later, she meets Etienne in a small cafe in Nice, facing the Promenade des Anglais. Without his inmate uniform, Etienne looks different. His black hair is groomed, his gaze sharper, but still marked by the years lost. They talk for hours, planning to contact hospitals, lawyers, and associations. He wants the fund to help families facing both medical and legal crises. Claire, with her experience in justice, knows how to navigate these complex systems. She agrees to help without fully realizing the scope of the commitment. The next 3 months are a whirlwind. Claire dips into her savings to get by. He files the fund's articles of incorporation, drafts projects, contacts donors. Etienne works with an almost frightening intensity, staying up until dawn writing grant applications. Claire worries. She sees how he channels his grief into this project, but she also knows that this mission gives him purpose. The fund officially opens 6 months after Etienne's release. Their first case comes quickly, a single mother, Sophie Laurent from Toulon. Her 8-year-old son, Lucas, is battling cancer. Lucas's father is in prison for a minor offense, leaving Sophie alone to face the medical bills and legal paperwork. Claire visits Sophie one Saturday morning. The apartment is modest, cluttered with toys and medical papers. Lucas, pale and thin, plays on a worn tablet. His fragile smile reminds Claire of the photo of Camille. She sits with Sophie, sorting through the bills, explaining the available aid. Sophie, exhausted, cries with relief. Claire feels a warmth in her chest, a new sensation. This isn't the justice of the courts, but the justice of the heart. That evening, she calls Etienne. She tells him about Lucas, his drawings, his dream of becoming a doctor to help other children. Etienne stays silent for a long time. Then he says, "This is the first time since Camille that I feel I've kept my promise." Claire then understands the depth of their mission. It's not just about helping families, it's about giving hope where it has vanished. In a year, the Camille Fund grows. They help dozens of families, offering financial assistance, legal advice, and support groups. Claire excels in this role. Her past in the police force allows her to navigate bureaucracy and get results where others give up. Her compassion makes her a confidant for desperate parents. Etienne, on the other hand, transforms. The broken man she met in prison becomes a passionate advocate. He speaks to regional committees pleading for reform. He addresses conferences on justice. But it's the small moments that matter the most. A letter from a mother whose son is in remission. A photo of a child who has recovered. Every story is a victory. One evening, 2 years after Etienne's release, Claire is working late at the Camille Fund office in Nice. The phone rings. It's Etienne, excited. A major pharmaceutical company wants to collaborate, offering free medication for the children supported by the fund. Claire smiles, feeling that their work has exceeded everything they had imagined. The memory of Camille, a little girl who never saw the sea, is changing lives. But Claire knows their journey is not over. A new trial is approaching, one even greater than before. Claire Dubois closes the door to the Camille Fund office in Nice. The night envelops the city, but a new energy pulses within her. 2 years after Etienne Moreau's release, their mission thrives. Dozens of families burdened by medical and legal crises have regained hope thanks to their work. Yet Claire feels a tension in the air. Something larger is looming. She tidies a stack of files, each telling a story of struggle and victory. A photo of Camille, Etienne's daughter, hangs on the wall. Her childlike smile lights up the room, reminding Claire why they fight. The next day, a call changes everything. It's Inspector Martin, a former colleague from Aix-en-Provence. His voice is tense. A federal investigation has uncovered a scandal involving Etienne's former company, Agrovita, based in Avignon. It's no longer just about his wrongful conviction. The company is accused of large-scale fraud, contaminated products, and ignored safety standards, leading to illness and death across France. Whistleblowers have been silenced, evidence destroyed, and lawyers corrupted, but the prosecutors are facing a wall. Key witnesses have disappeared or refused to speak, terrified of Agrovita's power. They need Etienne. He knows the inner workings of the company, its hidden practices. His testimony could change everything. Claire calls Etienne. She hears the fear in his voice. "They already took 3 years from me, Claire, my daughter." He hesitates. Testifying means reopening old wounds, facing the lawyers who destroyed him, risking his safety. It also means temporarily abandoning the expanding fund. Claire understands his dilemma. She, too, is torn. Encouraged, Etienne agrees to testify. It exposes them to real danger, but refusing would mean allowing Agrovita to continue destroying lives. She thinks of Sophie Laurent, of her son Lucas, in remission thanks to the fund, and all the families who could suffer if the truth stays buried. They meet in a park near the sea in Nice. It's here that Etienne scattered Camille's ashes a year earlier. Sitting on a bench, he watches children play under the pines. Etienne's hands tremble slightly. He talks about the nightmares that have returned since Martin's call. He describes the helplessness he felt in prison, the nights reliving his trial, the loss of Camille. "I promised to protect her, and I failed," he whispers. Claire listens, her heart heavy. But then Etienne's voice changes, growing stronger. He recounts a conversation with Sophie the previous week. Lucas, cured, dreams of entering middle school. Sophie told Etienne that the fund hadn't just given them money, it had restored their faith in humanity. "She said I was proof that people still fight for the good," he adds. These words touch Claire deeply. She thinks back to her own career, to the times she saw the powerful escape justice, and to her father who would tell her, "Justice isn't in the rules, but in what you do for others." She places a hand on Etienne's shoulder. "You're not alone anymore," she says. "The fund has given you a voice, legitimacy. They can't silence you so easily now." Etienne looks at her, his eyes shining with fragile determination. "Camille would want me to fight, not just for her, but for all those who have no one." He agrees to testify. The following months are a whirlwind. Claire becomes Etienne's rock. She coordinates with federal prosecutors, helps prepare his testimony, works with security experts to protect him. She keeps the fund afloat, delegating tasks to a team of dedicated volunteers. The media sees the case. Every day, Etienne sits across from Agravita's lawyers. He speaks about the falsified reports, the employees fired for reporting dangers, the pressure to cover up contamination. Claire, in the courtroom, watches the broken man from prison become a symbol of courage. The opposing lawyers try to paint him as a bitter man seeking revenge. Etienne responds calmly, mentioning the Camille Fund. "If I wanted revenge, I wouldn't spend my days helping sick children." The trial becomes a media storm. The newspapers headline the fall of Agravita. The families of the victims fill the stands, their gazes full of hope and pain. After 5 days, the jury deliberates. 6 hours later, the verdict is delivered. Guilty on all major charges, the leaders of Agravita are sentenced to prison terms. The company is ordered to pay enormous fines to compensate the victims. A federal oversight is imposed for years. Claire, sitting in the courtroom, feels a wave of relief. Etienne, at the stand, closes his eyes as if speaking to Camille. The real victory comes afterward. Whistleblowers, long silent, contact the prosecutors, inspired by Etienne. Families send letters thanking the fund for proving that justice exists. Organizations offer partnerships to expand their mission. One evening, 6 months after the trial, Claire and Etienne meet in the fund's office. The walls are covered with photos, smiling children, grateful parents. In the center, a photo of Camille, and Etienne, looking lighter, speaks of the future. "We could open branches in Lyon, Toulouse, create programs for rural communities." Claire smiles. She recognizes that tone. It's the tone of a man who has turned his pain into purpose. But their work isn't over. Every day brings new calls, families lost in medical debt, parents trapped by legal injustices. Claire excels at untangling these knots. Her past in law enforcement, her rigor and compassion make her a formidable ally. Etienne, meanwhile, speaks to decision-makers, doctors and politicians with an eloquence born of resilience. Together, they are building a legacy, the legacy of a little girl who never saw the sea, but whose dream is changing lives. Claire knows challenges await. Other companies like Agravita exist, and other families are suffering. But for the first time, she feels she's exactly where she's meant to be. Claire Dubois stands in the Camille Fund office in Nice, facing the sea, which sparkles under the moonlight. 2.5 years after Etienne Moreau's release, their mission has become a beacon of hope. The walls of the office bear the faces of dozens of families saved from despair. At the center, Camille's smiling photo seems to watch over them. Claire files a new case, that of a family they've helped. A father freed thanks to their lawyers, his daughter in remission. Each victory echoes Camille's dream. Etienne enters, a discreet smile on his lips. He's changed. The broken man from prison has become an indefatigable advocate. "I have an idea," he says. "What if we went further? Programs for schools to raise children's awareness of justice?" Claire hears the fire in his voice, the one that has turned a broken promise into a movement. She feels their mission growing even more. Yet the challenges persist. Every day calls flood in, parents overwhelmed by medical debt, families shattered by injustice. Claire navigates this chaos with precision learned in law enforcement, but also with an empathy she had never fully explored. Etienne speaks to decision-makers, hospitals, and the media with a confidence born of his struggles. Together, they are a force. The Camille Fund expands with branches in Lyon and Bordeaux and partnerships with European hospitals. One evening, Claire receives an email, an invitation to speak in Paris before a national committee on judicial reform. She smiles. She, the former guardian, has become a voice for those the system forgets. She thinks of her father, of his words. Justice is about protecting those who have no one. She did it at the cost of her career, but she has found her calling. Etienne has prepared a new project, a scholarship in Camille's name for children in remission who want to study medicine. He wants their pain to become a strength, just like his. Claire looks at him, awed by his resilience. He lost his daughter, his freedom, but he turned that tragedy into hope for others. She remembers their first meeting in the Marseille prison. She never imagined that this prisoner would change her life. Their story isn't over. Every family they help is a step toward a more just world. Claire knows that other Agrovitas exist, that other Camilles are waiting for their chance, but she no longer fears. With Etienne, they've proven that justice is not always found in the laws, but in the hearts of those who dare to act. The sea outside whispers softly. Camille never saw its waves, but her dream lives on through every child saved, every family lifted. Claire closes her eyes at peace. She risked everything she had, and she gained so much more.